It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy's here. Jason's back. Alex is here. The whole gang is here. We're going to tell you how you can make $100 pretty much instantly, but you may have ignored the email because it looks a little shady. We'll also talk about Eddie Q stirring up a hornet's nest with his court testimony last week, and you won't believe what Pope Leo's been wearing. All of that and more coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love
from people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 972, recorded Tuesday, May 13th, 2025. Future Jeopardy champion. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Jason Snell back from Arizona. It's good to see you.
Yes,
sixcolors.com.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Also here, Andy Inacco in the library from inacco.com. Hi,
Hey there, hey there, ho there.
And from officehours.global, Alex Lindsay.
Hello, hello.
It says chihuahua.coffee. Don't believe it.
Chihuahua.coffee.
He is not Micah Sargent.
He is not Micah Sargent, and he does not have a chihuahua. Do you have a chihuahua?
I do not have a chihuahua. I have a cat. That's it.
That's it. That's all you need. I was celebrating our new kitty.
Yeah.
This kitty might actually come up here and visit at some point. So
Nice.
just warning.
Fun.
Yeah. Jason, you had a good trip?
Yeah.
Got a good briefing from Apple?
Good time. I don't know what you're talking about. Shelley Brisbane got a briefing about something we're going to talk about today. This is the
accessibility.
Because this is where they pull the accessibility features that are going in the new OS forward from WWDC and talk about them for Global Accessibility Day. So we did get a briefing on that one.
Yeah.
They've done that before, haven't they? This has been, I think,
Yep.
it's becoming a pattern. Yeah.
It is.
Third Thursday in May is Global Accessibility Awareness Day.
Yeah.
And so they usually time it there. A lot of good stuff this time.
Yeah.
I mean, there's good stuff all the time, but this is particularly interesting.
There's so we got 18.5 and what was the new Mac OS 15 point something?
15.5.
5 also. So now they're on the 8.5 release, which means we're halfway to heaven in September. But these are kind of the final releases of those operating systems.
We're halfway through digging ourselves out of the mess we made with the last 0.0 release.
That's Siri.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yeah. But there are some new accessibility features. Where do you want to start? CarPlay? What was Shelley most excited about? Let's put it that way.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot going on here. There's
nutrition labels.
Nutrition labels. Yeah, I think that they're gonna. It's self-reporting, so we'll see how it goes. But the idea is that when you look on an app in the App Store, you can actually see directly what accessibility features that app claims. And as Shelley put it, this is a big deal because it makes it a lot clearer up front before you even download the app. The way she put it is whether the developer prioritizes accessibility, because a lot of developers just don't even think about it and they won't fill out the labels. And so you'll be like, oh, that's not great. So it's going to be just like with the privacy and security nutrition labels. You'll now be able to see at a glance if these apps in the App Store support accessibility features.
There will be, of course, pressure from users if you misrepresent your accessibility. I presume the nutrition label is accessible.
I would. How could it not be?
Wouldn't that be ironic?
The other big one is a little bit of a head scratcher if you don't think about the use case, which is Magnifier, which is an app that's been available as an accessibility feature on iOS for a while, coming to the Mac, and it'll actually use continuity camera. And I heard from a colleague of mine who said
this is not
she's got low vision.
Yeah. Or is it? It is. This is in the magnifier app.
So the idea is she said she always used to sit at the front of her classes in high school and college because she couldn't see the board. And this is a way you can actually sit there with the camera facing out and your computer.
That's so cool.
And you can magnify areas and you can see what's on the projector and you can see what's on the whiteboard, and all of that can be zoomed in and enhanced from your phone sitting facing outward on your desk, which is, it's pretty cool. I mean, they maybe they should put a camera on the other side of the computer at some point, but they've got these pieces, right? They've got magnifier, they've got continuity camera, and they're kind of putting that together so that low vision users can do that.
Yeah, I think that's really really cool.
Yeah, and there's something a little bit similar with Accessibility Reader, which is one of the things that I got really excited about, because it's often said that accessibility features often can improve the experience for everybody, not just the people who need accessibility features. This is one of the big ones for me, like on my Android phone, where Accessibility Reader will basically say, well, here's what's on the screen. Okay, I'm going to reformat it so that the text is big and isolated, doesn't have any distractions on it. It's going to be big, sharp, white letters on a dark background. The user is going to be able to adjust the font size and all the kind of things to make it more readable, which is obviously a really good thing for people who require that feature. It's also like kind of a hack, because anytime I'm on my phone and I'm trying to read an article, but there are so many layers of freaking ads and pop-ups that I can't navigate through it. If I just simply touch this feature on my Android phone, it just says, oh, well, it figures out, here's the actual text of the article, and simply isolates it on, again, white letters on a black background. And suddenly I can actually read the darn thing.
That's fantastic. This image from the Apple press release shows a student with her phone pointed at the book, at the top of the book. And I don't, is that continuity camera?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it is. And then it's so cool, because then it turns it into plain text that's big screen, white on black, high contrast.
I love that we're starting this way too, because so often this show, especially these last few weeks, right, has been kind of rough about Apple and Apple's behavior and courts and rulings and all sorts of things like that. And I saw somebody on, I think, Mastodon or Blue Sky this morning who linked to the Apple press release in the newsroom about this and said, this is Apple at its best. And I mean, it's easy to be cynical. There are a lot of things going on, including Apple behavior, that a lot of us might not like.
We'll get to Glenn Fleischman's piece in just a little bit.
But they're not wrong. This stuff is Apple at its best. I really do believe.
Yes. I will also point out that Google and Microsoft are very, very good in this arena.
Well, I'm not saying compared to others. I'm saying this is Apple's best self.
Companies need to do this, and I think what's great is that all of the big companies understand that and do that. I mean, Microsoft does amazing things with its Xbox controllers, and I mean, accessibility is very good, as you point out, Andy, in Android. Apple leads the way a little bit, though. I don't think Android has anything like this magnifier. I think that's fantastic.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry. I was just thinking about the best way to phrase it. This is one area in like security in which both Apple and Google are very, very happily competing with each other. Where if you've spoken to the teams on each company, they don't hide that. Ooh, that's a good idea. Let's do that. Or ooh, we were going to do something like that, but let's bump that up in priority. Like I said, like that reader feature, I've seen it's coming to the iPhone and iOS and Mac. I've had it on Android for a while. That doesn't mean that Apple's falling behind. It's that there are a lot of things to tackle. They're very, very serious about this. And if at some point they saw this feature on Android, said, ooh, that's a great feature, let's do it. That's good. I don't think that's what happened, because they have enough engineers inside Apple that know what is needed and what should be done, that they are pursuing it on their own timeline.
Blind Wiz in our club twit, who from his handle I assume is a wizard, says that Apple is better than Google by huge strides. Google's screen reader talkback sucks in comparison to Apple's voiceover, but he does say, or she says, accessibility is why I'm a huge Apple fan. So, and this is also new, and I don't know how to describe this, but there's a Braille experience called Braille Access that turns the iPhone, iPad, Mac, and Vision Pro into a full-featured Braille note taker. Now, I presume you have to have a Braille screen reader or something so that you can read the Braille, right? There's no raised dots on the phone. But it's pretty cool that it does turn it into Braille.
Yeah, there are Braille accessories. I'm sure that other people are more wise about this than I am. But yeah, this is the problem, that people who don't rely on these kind of inputs and accessories, it's an entirely invisible part of the experience.
Right.
But it's essential to a large proportion of the user base.
Yeah, Blind Wiz says he has a Braille reader attached to the phone and or Braille display, I guess you'd call it. So he and probably not the phone. I'm guessing Blind Wiz is to a Mac. He's actually participating in our Club Twit Discord in Braille. That's fantastic.
Amazing.
Does it keep up? That's really amazing. Wow. Because sometimes that Discord can get pretty quick, but he's able to participate. I think that's, thank you. Live captions arrive on the Apple Watch. That's really interesting. So you could look, if somebody's staring at their watch, it's not because they're bored with you. It's because they want to see what you're saying, I guess. Wow. The iPhone Live Listen turns the iPhone into a remote microphone, which then streams content to AirPods made for iPhone hearing aids or Beats headphones. And when the session's active on iPhone, users can view live captions of what their iPhone is hearing on the paired Apple Watch while listening along to the audio.
It'll be interesting to see how quickly Apple takes this to where some of the other headsets have already gone, which is translation, like really like live translation to your AirPods, where, it's not just a hearing aid. You just hear every language around you as if in whatever your natural language is. This, by the way, lends some credence to what Mark Gurman has been saying about Apple working on some sort of glasses. You can imagine maybe cameras in your AirPods or cameras in your glasses.
One of the things that Apple does, Apple, very secretive company. We all know that. That's not a secret. But here is I wanted more laughter there. Please clap. Anyway, thank you. No, you're too kind.
Somewhere I have
the Big Bang Theory audiences are the greatest fake audiences in the world.
But what Apple does is they do build foundational technologies for future products in public. Right, and sometimes when we talk about,
I'm sorry.
Sometimes when we talk about Apple's future rumors, right, you can start to look around and see features that are laying there that are like, oh yeah, you take that and
hiding
that and
in
that
plain
and that,
sight. Yeah.
and there they are, and that's because they can't. Not only do a lot of those features have utility on other Apple devices, but they can't build it all like at once. So they build it in pieces, and they know what they're building toward. And sometimes you can see the shapes of it. I did not have brain reading on my bingo card for today, but there's the Wall Street Journal did a report today about how a company called Synchron that uses neural signals, and they're gonna build that into switch control in Apple's OSs.
Wow.
And that's the idea of being able to have a brain signal input device for people who are obviously very mobility restricted.
And that just shows you how forward-thinking a lot of their work is. That there is no. My understanding from the Wall Street Journal article is that there is no device specifically that this is designed to support. They are simply laying the groundwork so that when this technology does mature, hopefully imminently, there will be a standard that Apple has created that people who are developing this hardware and the software can conform to, so that it will be part of Apple's accessibility package from the get-go.
Yeah, very, very cool. There's more. There's a lot.
Yeah. It's a great announcement.
Enhanced view with Apple Vision Pro for users who are blind. By the way, BlindWiz is on his phone with a Braille screen. Wow. For users who are blind or have low vision, Vision OS will expand vision accessibility features using the advanced camera system on Apple Vision Pro. So you can zoom in on the Vision Pro. That's pretty cool. The new API will enable approved apps to access the main camera to provide live person-to-person assistance for visual interpretation. That's
right.
Be My Eyes.
Like Be My Eyes. Yeah, exactly.
Then there are AI versions of Be My Eyes now coming. Look at that. You can zoom in. Mm-hmm. I still think cooking with your Vision Pro on is not ideal, but okay. At least you can read the cookbook. Other additional updates. This is all, by the way, not yet in iOS. I hope I didn't confuse people. This is coming in iOS 19, right?
This is all going to be in the fall. This is essentially a pull forward of things that are otherwise would have been announced at WWDC because they've got enough. They can pull the accessibility features forward.
Yeah. Again. Background sounds. By the way, Anthony Nielsen, our creative director, does have a pair of Vision Pros, and he says he's cooked in them. It's easier than an iPad. Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to cook when you're holding the iPad up to your eyes, but okay.
Can you imagine being a lobster and on top of everything else that's on your days going on, the last thing you see are those spooky eyes looking at you?
Background sounds become easier to personalize with new EQ settings. the option to stop. Oh, that's good because my mom can't hear me play the piano with the background sounds off. Minimize distraction increases. This is that.
It's the new, it's the new background sounds playlists and stuff like
this
that.
This would be useful. Pink noise is good for my tinnitus, and so I do use background sounds in my hearing aids. Actually, it'd be kind of cool to have that more programmable. For users at risk of losing their ability to speak, personal voice becomes faster, easier. That's where you use your voice to train the iPhone, and then it can speak in your voice.
Right. So the quality is going to go up. It's going to be faster to set up. It currently takes 150 different training phrases, and then you basically have to wait overnight as it builds the voice. According to Apple, they're going to use 10 phrases, and it will train in a few minutes. So that's kind of amazing.
And it would be, I have a hard time believing that it will have as much detail with less data, from your voice. I know that I've talked to some folks that have spent a lot of time in 11 Labs training their voice, and then also done the Apple one, and it just feels like the Apple one is like a little tricycle, like to them, like compared to, they have 20 or 30 hours of training in 11 Labs, with stuff that they're reading, and then it's amazing
what they do,
and then they have this little thing, and they're just like, it would just be nice to be able to scale it. It's great to have something that's easy, that gets close, but it'd be nice to have something that says, okay, I really want to save my voice into the future because I may lose it, or just that I want to be able to, because the folks that I'm talking to that are using 11 Labs for this, it's because they want to do things for documentaries and other things with their voice, then they don't want to do it anymore. Like they just type it in and be me, and so so they're pushing it to that level right now.
But it's a very big deal that they can build a good enough voice under limited number of inputs, because some people don't get advanced word that they're going to lose their voice.
Right.
So you're dealing with whatever scraps of messages that you seem to have left behind.
Yeah, and I think that, and again, 11 Labs is good for that, because if you have a lot of historical stuff, you just throw it all in and let it churn through the stuff that's there. But I think that it would be great if Apple made a bigger version of it. I mean, I think it's great to have a quick version that does a very good job with what it has, but also giving us the option of, hey, what's the main, like a big version of that, because I would love to have that type of solution built into my phone, as opposed to, because eventually you can get to a point where you're texting, and when you text somebody on the other side, they hear you, like if they're driving or whatever, they just hear your voice saying the words that you typed in.
I'm gonna have to start recording these episodes. Vehicle motion cue. This is weird. Have you ever gotten the most car sick I ever got was riding a commuter bus to San Francisco, playing Doom on the commuter bus, and because everything was moving one way and the screen was moving another way, they're actually going to build vehicle motion cues into the Mac to reduce motion sickness while riding in a moving vehicle.
Yeah, it's a great feature on iOS. So it's interesting.
Oh, it's already on iOS?
It's on iOS. They're going to bring it into the Mac. Yeah, it puts little dots on the screen, and then as your car is turning or whatever, the dots move with the motion, because all of these devices have multi-point accelerometers in them. And the idea, it doesn't work for everybody, but I've heard from a lot of people who said that it really helps with car sickness, because what's happening is that your limbic system is expecting
your inner ear is telling you one thing's
that
happening,
you're moving, which
and
you
your
are.
Eyes
but your eyes are locked on a
Yeah.
screen that isn't moving, and the disconnect makes you sick.
Well, and the reason the disconnect makes you sick is because the only other time that happens, you have been poisoned. Like, you know, like, so we have 1,000,000 years of get everything out of your stomach right now that's connected to, and some of us, you know, are more sensitive to it other, but so instead the dots are present, and apparently this does a little trick to your vision field where there is feedback of the motion that you're feeling.
I see.
And it decreases your nausea.
There's an animation on the Apple page.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe they were jiggling the screen. No, as you move, as the car's moving, these dots in the background move with the car.
Yes.
So you get a visual cue that you're moving, which matches your inner ear. Of course, the screen that you're looking at isn't moving, but those dots kind of back it up. That's interesting.
Yeah. So
it does work for some people, you're saying?
It does. I've heard from a lot of people who've had great success with it on the iPhone in the current version of iOS. So bringing this to The
Bring
Mac,
Doom back on the bus.
boy, I used my laptop on the bus all the time, and I was until I couldn't anymore. Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, the
it's a
bus will
great
really
feature.
do it. Yeah.
You can also try chewing on ginger or candy ginger. Like
Sure.
that's the one trick that always works for me. Whenever I board like a ferry, it's like, wow. It's like,
Really, that works for you.
yeah, 100% of the time.
Every time I'm on a boat, they have little things of candy ginger after meals, and I always gobble as much as I can.
At the Yosemite conference, like to get to Yosemite, there's this really curvy, twisty, beautiful, winding road. And after my first conference, I learned to have a pack of candy ginger for myself, and also offer it to people as we get into the car.
It's also a delicious
don't
thing to
stop.
have anyway.
Candy ginger is
Improved
so
eye
good.
tracking. We'll have the option to use a switch or dwell to make, I don't know. With head tracking, users will be able to more easily control iPhone and iPad with head movements. For people with mobility disabilities, there's switch control for brain. Oh, this is what you were talking about, the brain-computer interfaces. Wow. Assistive Access adds a new custom Apple TV app with a simplified media player. Oh, that might be nice. Music haptics on the iPhone become more customizable, so you can be listening to a song, it'll tap for you, or you can have it just be the vocals. Sound recognition adds name recognition, a new way for users who are deaf or hard of hearing to know when their name is being called. Oh, that's great. This is really amazing. Shelley was impressed by all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination. So Shelley writes about this stuff for me, and is herself a low vision user who's written a book about accessibility. And, I think she's always impressed. This is the accessibility equivalent of the WWDC keynote, right?
Yeah,
These
sure
are
is.
all the new features, and they are very thoughtful, and often they're surprising, especially to those of us who are not tuned into accessibility as much as people like Shelley are. But it shows you. I mean, again. Yes, there's a press release. Yes, it's good publicity for Apple. But also, there are a lot of people at Apple who are not only deeply committed to accessibility on their devices, but I think culturally, again, we talk a lot about a lot of maybe negative things about Apple culture from time to time that go into some of their decisions. I also do believe that culturally, making time to make sure accessibility is good and that your accessibility features are growing is a part of Apple's culture. They really do care about it and prioritize it.
And Apple Fitness welcomes Chelsea Hill in a dance workout. She is the founder of Rolettes, an LA-based wheelchair dance team. That sounds like that'd be fun. Anyway, lots of great stuff from Apple. Well done to celebrate World Accessibility Day. We'll see more about this. Oh, I didn't mention that CarPlay has some additional features too. CarPlay is going to have bigger text and a couple of other features that I might actually find pretty useful as well. So good on Apple. Well done. That's our whole first segment. You see? Good news from Apple. Now, don't get too settled in, because next we're going to find out, like, Glenn Fleischman has turned against Cupertino. I thought it was great that he put this on the 6 colors.
Yeah, he's doing that for us now. He's writing for us. So
He's
he
great. I
he
love
writes
Glenn.
one help column, which is what he's writing for us. And he's like, Jason, I have a post about Apple. Do you want that too? I'm like, sure, Glenn. Right. All right. Let's chill. Let's
Jeopardy
talk about
champion Glenn Fleischman, who is now joined by Dan Morin.
it. Yes.
Is it a spoiler? Can I say what happened, or is that
It
a
happened
spoiler?
last week, and it's not. I think technically, I mean, unless you're really backed up on Jeopardy or something, like, yeah, Dan Morin, my
He won!
colleague at 6 Colors, is like Glenn Fleischman, now a two-time Jeopardy champion. So
I was
pretty good.
so disappointed when the college professor comes on in day 3. I thought this might be bad. But have you talked to Dan since?
Oh yeah. I funny
still
story.
talking to
So
you,
they record 5 episodes a day, 2 days a week.
Right.
That's how they do it on Jeopardy. So
So
week's
when was
worth
his
of episodes.
It was a month ago, or
It was 2 months ago. It was in March.
so he couldn't say anything for 2 months.
Yeah, and he knew what happened. I only knew that he went out there, and that I knew. And this is the funny part is I knew he was there, and they turn off your phone and everything, right? So I knew he was there that day. I was doing a podcast that day. And then at the end of the day, he obviously he went through that process, so he got on Jeopardy. The next day, because he was in LA for 2 days,
so he had told you in the past, yeah, I took the test online.
Oh yeah,
I got the Zoom interview. I got the audition.
I mean, I went through.
Knew that he got accepted. He was on the list.
He had been trying to go on Jeopardy for years and hadn't gotten even to the audition part. I submitted to Jeopardy a couple years ago and immediately went all the way through to being put in the pool. They never called me. I felt guilty. I felt guilty because I knew Dan had been trying for like 10 years and hadn't done it. But then Dan went through that process and shot right all the way through to being on the show. But the funny part is, on the Tuesday, I check in to see where Dan is and spoiled myself about Dan's run because he was at Disneyland. So I knew Friday's episode was anticlimactic for me because I knew that he wasn't going to week 2, but he won like $35,000 or something in 2 days.
Yeah,
so he did great.
Impressed.
He did great. So that's awesome.
He showed up. He showed well for the nerds. He did a good job.
He did.
So you now have 2 Jeopardy champions working for you.
I do. Colors. I am deeply outclassed by my colleagues at 6 colors.
Now, do you have to re-up, or are you still in the pool?
You have to re-up. I took the test again this year, and we'll see what happens. But my time expired, so we'll cross fingers.
I'm going to say that I say proudly that I passed the exam, and it was only my personality and general physical appearance that caused them to say no.
Yeah,
did they tell you that?
That feels like it for me too.
I think it was implied.
The final step is you are on a Zoom with a bunch of people, and my understanding from that was that you've already qualified to be on Jeopardy. The Zoom is for casting. They want to see your demeanor and the look of your face, and they your age and where you're from and all the things they do, because at that point they've got an unlimited supply of qualified contestants, and what they want to do is cast their shows. And they didn't call me, so good for Dan. They did
a contestant search in Boston, so at least I got to play with the buzzers, so that was
nice.
Oh, I didn't realize you had gone that far. That's cool.
Yeah.
I guess, what about you, Alex? Are you a Jeopardy champion? Would you like to be?
Maybe. If all the questions. I have one other Jeopardy thing I just wanted to say, which is a lot of us who talk about going on Jeopardy, we talk about what our ultimate terrible Jeopardy board would be. Oh. And mine is like opera, kings, numbered kings, French stuff, painters.
14th century literature.
I have nightmares about going on Jeopardy, and every question is about French things and numbered kings, and I was just like, and the Bible. I'm really bad with the Bible. I did not pay attention in Sunday school when I was a kid, and there was a Bible category, and Dan did really well on it.
He did really well. I was impressed.
He said, I was a religious studies minor. I'm like, see that? There you go. It finally paid off after all this time. That Cornell education finally paid off.
I mean, plus the eternal salvation, but in the
yada yada.
Hey, so congratulations, Dan. That's fantastic.
It was awesome.
Let's take a little break. More to come with Andy Iannacco, Alex Lindsay, Jason Snell, MacBreak Weekly. Our show today brought to you by Bitwarden. I love this company, and this is the password manager I use. What's always surprising to me is how many businesses use Bitwarden. It's open source. I always feel like this is the geek's secret, but no, Bitwarden has really, over the last few years, become the trusted leader in passwords. Keeping secrets, it's really great for your SSH keys and other kinds of secrets, API keys, API secrets that you don't want to accidentally post on GitHub. And of course, passkey management. And more I'm using passkeys with Bitwarden. It's nice because Bitwarden's on all my devices, my passkeys are everywhere. With more than 10 million users across 180 countries, over 50,000 business customers worldwide now, Bitwarden continues to protect businesses and individuals everywhere. G2 consistently ranks at number 1 in user satisfaction. Every year they do this on World Password Day, their 5th annual World Password Day survey. Survey says everybody's going to benefit. Every generation will benefit from a good password manager. It's not just us old folks. Gen Z may be the most digitally native generation. They grew up with the internet, but they've been found guilty of, get this, the highest incidence of password reuse. In the survey, 72% of Gen Z respondents reuse the same password across accounts. What? You ought to know better. Well, they do know better. As it turns out, 79% of them admit password reuse is risky. They know it. Nevertheless, 59% recycle an existing password even when updating accounts with companies that disclose data breaches. So you get the email. It says we had a data breach. You have to change your password, and they recycle the old one. Come on, man. See, if they were using Bitwarden, it'd make it so easy. It generates long, strong passwords that you use unique to each site. And by the way, they'll tell you if a password has been exposed in a breach. They'll even help you change those passwords. Bitwarden has announced the launch of something new. This is really interesting. It's called Access Intelligence. So if you're a company that has Gen Z employees, and who doesn't, Access Intelligence helps enterprises help their employees to proactively defend against internal credential risks and external phishing threats. You kind of need this. Access Intelligence has two core functionalities. Risk Insights reduces alert fatigue and allows IT teams to identify, prioritize, and remediate at-risk credentials. Advanced Phishing Blocker alerts and redirects users from known phishing sites in real time. All right. It uses a continuously updated open source block list of malicious domains. Just one more way Bitwarden makes you safe. But I think what's important to emphasize is it makes you and your company safe, but it's also easy to use. They prioritize simplicity because you know what? If a security tool is hard to use, it's not going to do much good. It's Bitwarden setup just takes a few minutes. If you're moving from another password manager, it'll support importing from almost every password management solution. And I always say it's open source. That means you can inspect their source code. Anyone can. And they're regularly audited by third-party experts. Bitwarden meets stringent security and compliance requirements. They protect the vaults, the SOC 2, Type 2, GDPR, HIPAA, CCPA compliant, ISO 27001:2002 certification. You know, all the important ones. You and your business deserve an effective solution for enhanced online security. Get started today with Bitwarden's free trial of a Teams or Enterprise plan, or get started for free across all devices as an individual user at bitwarden.com/twit. That's bitwarden.com/twit. We thank him so much for supporting MacBreak Weekly. Number of people on our Twit community forums at twit.community said that, Jason, you did a much better job of talking about the Apple spanking in court than we did last week on your shows. So,
well, thank you to those people.
They said, especially on Twit on Sunday, we mentioned that Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers was very upset with Apple.
She was a little
miffed.
Yeah.
And that she said an Apple executive lied on the stand and has referred that executive to the Attorney General. She also said that while this is kind of interesting, I think you talked about this. Phil Schiller, Apple's erstwhile chief marketing officer, wanted to do better in response to the judge's order to open the App Store. Yeah. But others at the company said, no. Let's do what I call malicious compliance. Let's do the least we possibly can. And Tim Cook decided to do the latter. Judge Rogers wrote, "Cook chose poorly," the title of our show last week.
Like literally an Indiana Jones reference, sitting right there. She didn't footnote it, but we all know.
She really tore Apple apart.
In the last week, I heard from a lot of people, and this is a good question that I think as a not a lawyer, I did not ask, that a lot of people out there asked, which is, where were the lawyers in all of this? And I think the answer is that, they gave advice undoubtedly, and that's privileged, and so we don't know what it is. And then that led to them having meetings about what they wanted to do. I can't imagine that the lawyers didn't say, here is a range of possibilities, right? And that it is a spectrum from what Phil Schiller is saying, which is, I was there, she's mad at us, let's comply. And Luca Maestri is saying, let's make this the least compliant possible so that we can, essentially it's a choice no one will ever make because it's non-competitive in every single way. And that the lawyers are like, okay, the more you go toward this side, the more you risk her bringing down the hammer. but the less money you get. So, in the end, that's a policy decision. That's not a legal decision. The lawyers can warn them. But I thought it was interesting because a lot of people are like, isn't it the job of their lawyers to warn them of the consequences?
I'm sure they did.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did.
Well, they may have also said, and Alex, you pointed this out last week, that the letter of the law only requires you to do this. And that's what they did.
The thing is that if you're not, unless she prescribes exactly what they do, I mean, she's one angry judge. This is going to go into appeal.
Weird. But lying under oath tends to make judges.
No. Right? I was going to say the big mistake was lying under oath, and the bigger mistake was to have emails. Like, what are you doing? Like
Slack messages and
Slack. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
Like,
it's interesting. The people in our community were a little mad at you, Apple, for suggesting that the real
mad at me
mistake
or
here
mad
was
at
to
Apple?
write
You
things
said
down, not. Yeah. The real mistake was to not do the right thing.
I don't think that Apple should have to do any of this stuff because they're not a monopoly. Without being a monopoly, regardless of whether we think it's good or bad, without a monopoly, they're not even a majority. They're They're of the phone market. They are a minority in the phone market. I don't believe the iPhone is something different. And so we can talk about whether it's right or wrong, but I don't think the courts should be allowed to tell Apple what to do because they're not a monopoly. And I don't think that, and so that's fundamentally, and I think that they come from the same place. They come from the same place that I come from. And so, of course, if someone told me something that I fundamentally disagreed with, I would pay my fines with pennies, and that's what they're doing.
I get it, but the Supreme Court disagrees with you, right? Like this went all the way up.
The Supreme Court and every court internationally in which this topic has been discussed, Apple has lost not just by a little, but definitively.
Leaving it to the U.S. Leaving it to the U.S. in this case, they appealed it. It went all the way up, and they said no, it's fine. Other than these little details that she adjusted, I think it is. One of the things that I've been thinking about this is, I get the argument that they were following the letter of the ruling in the least, the least they could do, paying in pennies, essentially. That is true. However, there's another way to view it, which is the judge didn't dictate to Apple what its terms would be, right? This is actually one of those complaints that comes up a lot about the DMA, about the European Commission making rulings, is that there's a lot of pushback that says these bureaucrats shouldn't be designing policy for companies. The policy should be designed by the companies, not by the bureaucrats. And the judge in this case left it to Apple to create a policy that fostered competition in payments. And they failed at that, right? But what she didn't do is say, I'm going to just set it at 10%, and that's the new setting. She said, why don't you go off and come up with a system that will please me in the sense that it will be competitive? And that's why they're in contempt, is that they didn't do that. But I appreciate the fact that what she didn't do is say, I will make a policy for Apple. She said, you make the policy. You are Apple. This is going to be your policy. Just make it in a way that fulfills these needs. And that's what Phil Schiller was probably saying is, look, I know what you're trying to do here. She's not going to like it because what she wants is competition, and a malicious 27% is not going to please her. And he was right about that, and they didn't listen. And I think that's the problem. But I don't think it would have been better if she had said, okay, Apple, I'm setting your percentages here. They are, because 100%. It really isn't her business to do that part of it.
And I have to admit that as a user, I just fundamentally hate being taken out of the App Store. So I had 3 apps this weekend that I put in, and they immediately wanted me to go out of the App Store. And I just went, I had already downloaded them, and so I gave them 1 star. And I just said, third party. This is a third party payment system, because when I reinstall, now I have to figure this all out again. And I value my time, and I value the low friction that I had before. And I am absolutely going to be malicious about this forever. Basically, if someone takes me out of the App Store, they're going to get 1 star. 1 star, 1 star, 1 star, 1 star, 1 star. Because
Amazon,
as users, that's all the only way we can vote. We don't have access to the courts. We don't have access. So the only way that we can say as a user that we're upset about this is to give them 1 star. And so that's my vote. It's going to be 1 star that I don't want to do this. I think it's the worst thing you could do to your app, and I'm going to give you 1 star for it.
Well, I mean, my reaction to that is, how dare Amazon let you buy a book in 2 steps instead of 8 steps, especially when 6 of those steps were completely artificially imposed by Apple, and create a situation where there was not 30% of extra profit in the sale of this comic book that Amazon could dip into. Again, we've been through this before. We don't need to not only disagree. We're not going to go this again, but I'm going to say what I want to say, and that is that I absolutely don't understand your position here. I don't understand where, yes, you would much rather give a 1-star review, which to me, every time I see a 1-star review, I'm basically, if I could write a part of the UI that says hide everything that's a 1-star review, because they're absolutely meaningless for the purpose of review. They mean nothing, and they just do nothing but contaminate the value of that system. But let's put that aside for now. It's like, the problem is that, yes, you're saying that 1 star is, you don't have the ability to so-and-so, this is your way to be heard. Well, that's the role of the courts. To say that, look, if there are only a few multi-trillion-dollar companies out there, and therefore companies that are worth much less than $1 trillion don't have the ability to fight against something that might be considered fundamentally wrong. That's where the courts step in and say, wow, we're going to hear everything. We're going to take years on this, and we're going to, at the end of this process, no matter what court we're in, no matter what country this court is in, we are deciding that, yeah, Apple has not justified this one part of its App Store policy, and ordering Apple to change that. I don't understand why this is not seen as a positive thing for users. Again, I'm not going to keep going on. But the thing is that I don't want to don't get your opinion.
I don't want to give them my contact information. I don't want to have to log in again. I don't want to have to figure this out. Like, I had it working perfectly before. I buy so few books that I'm completely insensitive.
We've heard your argument. We've heard both arguments. I understand. We can stop now.
I know, but it is. Anyway, I just feel like the user is being ignored in this environment.
Like, you're being ignored. Not all users, but you're being ignored. And let's get to Glenn Fleischman's
to get people to say to not be ignored.
Yeah, don't do the 1-star thing. That's stupid.
Please do it. Please do it.
Glenn Fleischman, in fact, has the complete opposite point of view. He's pissed, and he wrote a piece on 6 Colors saying, I've lost my religion, and he's particularly pissed because, you may say, well, Apple's protecting users, but what his point is, and I think it's well taken, is Apple's dumping on its developers. Do you want to talk about what he wrote, Jason, since it's on 6colors.com?
Well, I mean, Glenn's been writing about Apple for a very long time, and this is very much like it's a good piece. He's saying, look,
He's hurt.
No
deeply.
Company is perfect, and you always think about things, and there are issues. I mean, he mentions lots of issues over the years, including, I know, Andy's favorite, which is the gold Apple Watch. Like, there are all of these things that are there, but he said he felt the thing that he felt betrayed by was the idea that they were told to come up with a competitive plan, and instead retroactively ordered a consultant to justify a percentage that was so high that it would be impossible. They basically said, 3% credit card, well, we'll charge 27. And then somebody came to them and said, actually, in the long run, it's more like 4 or 5%. And they said, good, even better, because that means that it's not.
It's now 31%.
Yeah.
Total.
And so, this is the thing. It's like, he said it was broken trust. He said that it was, they're lying under oath. They're not following the orders, and that it shows something about their priorities, right? Like the idea that that their cultural priorities right now definitely involve doing, squeezing as much out of financial transactions on the store as possible. And I mean, I thought, I've been thinking about this for the last week, and I had the same thought, which is, 30%. Is what we're talking about, but like the non-competitiveness of it is actually the bigger issue here. It's 30% because Steve Jobs said it would be 30%. It could be 70%. It could be 90%. They could do whatever they want if they have complete control. And so if you think about developers and you think about users and you think about degraded user experience and you think about developers being treated badly, even though their apps helped build the iPhone up, which is an incredibly, it's like an $80 billion profit a year business for Apple. They're doing okay with the iPhone, and it helps being built by the software. And their view is that they deserve part of the gains from the software developers. And a lot of the software developers would argue that the gains are that they have a thriving platform full of great apps that sells iPhones. But anyway, I mean, I think that this is Glenn doing a thing that a lot of us have come to grips with over the years. I certainly did when I started in journalism and started covering Apple. Nothing takes the blinders off like being right down close to the metal. And the idea that, like, I've always said for probably since the 90s at some point, love its products. Not my job to love the company.
100%.
It's my job to love the products for what they do for me. That's it.
This is a picture of Glenn. Actually, he's given up the Mac now. He's typing all his articles. I'm sorry that somebody...
Typewriters only.
He points out that back in 1998, he told the New York Times, "This is my last Mac I'll ever buy."
Yeah. Then Steve came back.
And it all changed. But we've all gone up and down through this.
It's thoughtful. I mean, the thing I like about a piece like this is that it's not one of these kind of rage quit kind of things. It's more like, why do I feel this way?
Right.
I think he was surprised at how much emotional investment he had in Apple.
Right.
To be dismayed, right? I mean, he's like, oh no, I got less cynical and less jaded. And that's a good thing in general. But in this case, it you feel it a little bit when you see their priorities laid bare, even if you could suspect based on the behavior that these were always their priorities.
Yeah. That's what I think, that there's always a transitional moment from Apple user childhood to Apple user adulthood, where you realize that Apple is not a magical company. They are not two hippies in a garage, have not been so for decades now. They are this is why I keep putting that phrase out. They are a $3 trillion company, usually the most valuable company in the entire world. They don't love you. As a company, they don't care about you. And if you thought that they did, that's not on them, that's on you. Every time it's possible for them to do things that are both incredibly selfish and also incredibly good for the user at the same time. And it doesn't negate either of those things. But if they also do something that is very, very selfish and also very, very much against the user, if this is something that does not fit into what they perceive as their business plan. That's not a slam against Apple. That's an acknowledgement that this is capitalism. This is interfacing with a large company. And once again, if you thought that, the reason why they make the best hardware and they don't contaminate they don't want to make cheap products is because they take pride. They're designers. They go where the puck is going to be. It's like, again, that was on you. This is I'll close by saying that, like, one of the most profound things that I was ever told in my religious education was, like, near the end of my religious education, which is when the priest was saying, well, you're now, like, in your late teens. It's now time to let go of the faith of a child and start to develop the faith of an adult. And, like, that means that you're not simply praying to the icons. You understand the symbolism, you understand the principles, and you have to live by these principles.
It's also more than Apple just trying to do the letter of the law. And this is why the judge really got upset. It was the definition of contempt. Not only did an executive lie about when they decided on 27%, but the judge said they manufactured, that's the word she used, an independent economic study to legitimize the decision. I mean, they acted skeevy. Let's face it.
The 80-something page decision is worth downloading and reading, because she absolutely tears Apple apart bit by bit by bit by bit.
It's the very definition of contempt. I mean, that's clear. All right, we're gonna take a break. Come back. We're done with the court. Well, no, we're not. Darn it. We're almost. We could have been done with the court thing, except then Eddie Q gets up on the stand during the Google trial. The judge in the Google case, Google's already been declared a search monopoly. The judge is having hearings now to determine the remedy, which Judge Mehta will do, I believe, on the 25th. Eddie Q gets up on the stand and says, "Well, Your Honor," and I know he doesn't talk like this, but it feels like he should. It turns out that we're seeing fewer and fewer Google searches on the iPhone all the time, to which the stock market responded with a 7% drop in Google's
120
stock.
billion. Yep, that was bad.
It was like,
Yeah.
Google said, no. We are seeing more searches every year, including from Apple devices. So I don't know who's telling the truth on this one. This might be a case of Eddie.
Well, the numbers are on Google's side. They're actually Google use of Google search has been up. I think they have numbers for 2020.
Eddie might have been grinding his own axe here.
Well, no, we're not grinding his own axe. He was there for a real purpose, which is to keep that $20 billion a year coming. And the way to do that was to tell the judge that, hey, I mean, Google, there's plenty of competition in search. We're seeing fewer and fewer usage of Google search.
Right.
AI is killing. We might have to actually switch away from Google search.
That was the thing that really scared the market, I believe, is he said, we might be thinking about doing an AI thing instead. I should point out that 20 billion is a big number because according to at least one analyst, Apple doesn't say how much they make on the App Store, but according to at least one analyst, Apple's commissions on the App Store last year were 10 billion. So of the service's revenue, Google's payoff is twice as much as the App Store.
And when you think about it, and Google thinks that that's a great deal.
Yeah.
So you think about how much Google's making.
Google wants to keep doing it. The judges, among other remedies, the government has asked the judge to end those payments, which would kill Firefox. They've already said that. It would hurt Apple.
And on top of that, they particularly want to at least retain the ability to continue to reach those deals with Samsung and Apple and other makers. They're already shifting towards, let's make Gemini the default the AI that's on the device. They're really, really driving next week at Google I/O. You're definitely going to hear a lot about AI powered search. During their last earnings call, that was pretty much they're trying to make sure the analysts understood that we see that a lot of our users are drifting away towards AI-powered search from OpenAI and other AI makers, and we're trying to make sure that we keep those users where they are, even though we don't know how to monetize it yet.
OpenAI is so good at it. Like I almost never Google search anymore. Like if I'm looking for something very specific on the web for a web page, I will go look for it. But almost all of my informational searches now are just in ChatGPT. Like it's so much faster. This is
to the detriment, though, of every single website on the internet.
Yep.
By the way, I do the same thing. I use Perplexity, but it's the same thing because I'm using, Perplexity mushes together all the different AIs. But as a result, I often don't go I guess the source.
But a lot of times what ChatGPT has gotten really good at is it gives me the answers and it's giving me the links to everything.
Yeah, but do you click those links?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm looking for something. I'm trying to figure something out and show me, 'cause most of the time I'm not asking it just for raw information. I'm asking it I'm looking for this or I'm doing this. And it shows me that. And then it gives me, here's a bunch of places that you can go look at it to research it more which has made it a lot more, I don't know, ChatGPT, it feels like if you want to check my work, here it is, right? But it's also the links to where I can, go find out more information about that.
Yeah,
that
this
product.
is during This Week in Tech on Sunday, we were discussing wombats versus marmots. And I was just curious what the difference was. So I went to Perplexity and I did a search, got all the information I'd want. Now, they have the sources, their footnotes, and there's links to the sources, but I didn't need to because I got everything I want.
For that search,
you're right. If you're searching for running shoes, you might end up going to a running shoe store. But I feel bad that, let's see, whatever this is.
Well, like a recent search was mine. Was like, tell me the difference between a Tascam and a Yamaha pinout on a DB25, and it just goes here. This is how
you
this
never
one
have to go to a site to see that, right?
But then it goes. Here are the links to the manuals that show you what those things are. And so then I'm not going to start building cables based on ChatGPT.
Okay.
So now it's going to take me somewhere to go find those.
I think that you will see, and I think we don't know, but I think it's probably the case that a lot of links are going away. Will you run a site, 6 colors?
I think, and the reason Glenn is writing for me now is because Macworld, saw this coming, that he was writing a help column, and that a lot of that, and this is the truth for a lot of the web, and this is what I was going to say is, we've spent a decade plus of SEO, search engine optimization, on the web, on text websites, optimizing for let's call it a level 1 question, right? It's a simple answer to a simple question, because back in the day, you'd ask it in Google, and when is the Super Bowl on?
Right.
And every site has a when is the Super Bowl on page, because they want to get to the top of Google. It's free traffic, and they get some ad revenue from all the ads on that page. And so it's twisted the internet because of all of that value in the level 1 search result. And I don't want to discount it, because there are a lot of companies who built their whole brand and their whole business model on that. I don't believe things below level 1 are in as much peril, let's say, as the level 1 stuff is, the surface stuff for AI. The really simple stuff where all the AI answer just gives it to you, because all you were really saying is when's kickoff of the Super Bowl.
And that's what a help column does, right? That's the problem.
If you're just trying to get a simple answer, what do I type here? But there is room, I believe, for what Alex says, which is all of the supplemental material where I want to understand it. I want to know why. I want to know more. I don't know if the AI is telling me all the detail that I need. I think that it's not going to make all of that stuff obsolete, at least not right away. But I think that really easy stuff at the top level that a lot of companies spend a lot of money putting a lot of garbage on the internet, honestly, in order to have it be optimized for search, that stuff is gone, and it's a huge it blasts a hole in the side of the web.
All this really is the terminus of that ski slope. I mean, for a long time, I can never remember how to do a DFU on the iPhone, so I would do a Google search, get the Mac 911 column from Macworld, and I would read that. Then somebody on YouTube cleverly said, I want to do a little SEO, and then YouTube started having 10-second videos that you walk through with the DFU. Now I just do a Perplexity search. I don't even see the YouTube, let alone the Mac 911. I get all the answers in the AI search. And I think that in the long run, for a lot of content,
for a simple answer, for that like top level, low hanging fruit answer, I think absolutely. And like I said, I think that was it's a real hit to the web, but also I think that's a distortion. That content existed and that business model existed.
It was already
because of how Google worked.
Right.
And so as a result, I am very sympathetic to businesses that are struggling with this. At the same time, I'm not sure I'm super sympathetic, because I don't think a lot of that content was any good. It was super simple, just designed to suck in money from Google, and that's the stuff that AI can replace the most.
And you've put your money where your mouth is, because as soon as Macworld canceled Mac 911, you hired Glenn.
Yeah, because I think
he's doing the help stuff for you.
We're serving a more specific audience, and they care about this stuff, and they want to learn about it. And Glenn doesn't just talk. Like, we had a question. It was like, how does the Apple Watch know where I am? Like, when does it? Is it like a Find My device, or is it like finding a person and all of that?
Yeah,
and he wrote like 1,000 words, and he said the answer's at the end if you want to go to the end. But the money for me is in the TLDR part, or is it below the TLDR? It's where he says, Find My is super complicated. It's like, are you a person? Are you a device? And it turns out like your Apple Watch, if it's with your phone, is different than if it's not. And if it's cellular, is different than if it's Wi-Fi. And like, it's a great piece. And our audience, I think, is full of people who do this for a living, either for their business, or they do it because they support people in their family and their friends, and they want to know the answer. But that is a very different model. I've never had the model with 6 colors of hoping for traffic to drive by with a quick Google search. It's just not my model.
We do 3 freaking hour podcasts.
Exactly. It's the opposite of a drive-by. That would be a very slow electric scooter drive-by.
We figure you want the information. You want more. Yeah.
And when you look at like when you start trying to game the system too far, you end up building a place for disruption, which is like, for instance, I cook a lot, so I have lots of recipes, and most recipes on the web are designed to deliver you ads. Like, it is, I'll give you a little chunk of the recipe, and then there's 3 more ads, and then I'll give you a little chunk of the recipe, and there'll be 4 more ads. And it's really hard to actually figure out what you're supposed to cook.
There's a reason also for that, Alex,
just strip it out.
There's a reason for that that's a little separate from this, which is that recipes can't be copyrighted. So if I write a recipe, I write the perfect bolognese recipe, every site on the internet can republish it without paying me or any credit to me.
But the extra blog post at the top is entirely for search engines. Right?
No, but that's what they're taking advantage of, is
Yes.
this content is fungible, so we're going to make money around it.
No, I understand. But what happens is that you're trying to turn that into a business model. But the problem is that it sets you up for a paprika, which just says, put the URL in. I'm going to go grab the recipe,
Yep.
and I'm going to stick it all in there. And then I didn't realize like the vastness of Apple's recipe thing. So I thought, oh, they're giving me a recipe every once in a while, and I hit a button, and there's 70,000 recipes that are in there. Like it's not like that have all been formatted and everything else. I was like, oh my gosh, Apple did not do a little bit of recipes; they did all the recipes. So but because that was a very, you got to figure it out, but that was a very inefficient, way to deliver stuff to users. And they are always going to be looking for some other way when it's not efficient. So you always have to figure out how to deliver that efficiently. That's all.
I wanted to make a point about the, going back to the numbers, because I love my charts and all of that. When we talk about Apple and profits from services and stuff, I just wanted to throw out there, 20 billion for search, 10 billion for App Store, right?
That's 30 total. Yeah.
Let's say, people can quibble this, but let's just say it's 100% profit. Because it's close.
Close to. Yeah.
It's close. I'm sure they assign some App Store overhead and things like that. But let's just say
Google check is pretty much.
I'll knock a few percentage points off, which will take us down to 89 or whatever it is, 29.8
billion,
and then we round it back up to 30. Right. Apple's total profit last year was about 90 billion.
Yeah.
So we are talking about a third of Apple's profit in a fiscal year.
Yeah.
And if you want to know why Luca Maestri was gesturing wildly at Tim Cook, saying, "Don't listen to Phil. Don't listen to him."
He's the money guy, right?
Because he was the CFO.
He knows.
And why one of his guys lied on the stand. I think you could get the sense, and I would say it's an unhealthy relationship with that. Essentially, pennies from heaven, that free money that comes with no 100% profit margin because it's just coming out of the sky. I understand how you could. You get used to it. I also would say that if it was, and nobody's saying it's going to go away, it would just be less. I'm sure Wall Street would be unhappy. I'm sure that they would have some tough compares in their financials for a year, but Apple would still be an incredibly profitable company. However, I can see why the money people would be freaking out, because you are talking about being a third less profitable.
Well, and also it is the money that you make if there's 145% tariff. Like, it becomes a big chunk. It becomes half or 60 or 70% of your revenue if you had a year of a crazy tariff, right? So, and Apple, the DNA of Apple is still damaged by the late 90s. Like, right before Steve got there. And they were months away from closing, and all the people running the show right now were there. They're still the first generation after this very stressful event, and so they're always worried about survival, and they're always worried about every revenue stream, and they're definitely building up services because they're afraid that someday the game with the iPhone, the iPhone is this crazy thing, and it's built up this huge company, but the dance could end or be stalled or anything else, and they're you see them constantly working on it. They're moving phones out of China. They're doing all these other things to make sure that doesn't happen. I think that the other thing to look at is what Apple will do. Once they open this up, they have to find that revenue somewhere. The revenue, whatever they're going to lose with third-party payments and whatever is going to happen. And there's a lot of things they can do that aren't necessarily great for developers either, which is, for instance, expanding Arcade into productivity and all these other areas where they basically, buy up a bunch of apps and put them into part of the membership, and what will happen is, as soon as you have those as part of your Apple One subscription, how often are you going to go out and buy something else, right? And so they could theoretically, because they have all the data, they know exactly what things are selling well and what isn't, and they can start, because if they start losing money, they're going to try to replace it with services somewhere, and the lowest hanging fruit is packaging more and more apps into the Apple One subscription, and that's going to be I think that's most likely their reaction over the next 3 to 5 years.
I just hope that overall, every year when my favorite questions that Six Colors asks in their usual 30-person survey is relationship with developers. And that number of independent people, 30 or 40 people that get polled, that Jason knows the number, get asked this question every year, and the numbers are quantified, and nobody ever thinks, wow, Apple's really treating developers nicely this year. They seem to have isolated the roots of their dysfunction in their relationship with their developers, and they're trying to address it. It's been this flat line of, you are so lucky to be in a relationship with us. We are so lucky that we will continue to drag your sorry butt, giving you all these lovely services and lovely APIs and this store, this gorgeous store. We really think that you should have. Have you ever thanked us? And I think that there should be like an improvement, a real come to Jesus moment of, you know what? There's a level of abuse that is maybe unnecessary. That maybe it might have been necessary 10 years ago, maybe less necessary now, and perhaps we should reevaluate how we treat our developers, because they are also our customers, and we tell people that we treat our customers really well.
I think that when they actually hit all of the developers, or many of the developers, it looks like about 70% are happy with what they get from the store. 30% are unhappy. If the Republicans got 70% or the Democrats got 70% of the vote, they wouldn't even listen to the other side. Well, they would like I can't hear you over the cheers. That's
faulty. That's faulty arguments. If there are 12 people who are living in the streets, that doesn't mean that that's insignificant. That means that they have a good reason to complain that they can't afford housing in this community.
I just think it's complicated.
I know. I'm not saying it's not complicated, but I'm saying that I do believe that there are complaints that developers have consistently made that seem like they're solvable problems, and Apple is like, we don't see an upside to us for solving that problem. And so, yeah, just imagine if there was a complicated system for unlocking a phone. And it's like, why is this 3 steps? It should be just, I press my finger here and it unlocks. Why do I have to press my finger and then slide something across? And Apple just decided, we don't care. It's like, that's the thing that annoys me about it.
Glenn Fleischman back at 6 Colors. And if you read his Tell Me All Your Troubles piece, you'll see why you don't want to just do a AI search and get the answers. Ahoy hexachromes. Did he invent that, by the way?
He did. I didn't even know what he was talking about, but he means 6 colors, right? Does he?
That's very Glenn.
Yeah. And in his first, like I said, his first answer, I love it. I actually put a link that says, because he wrote it, he said, look, the answer is at the end if all you want to read is the answer. And I put a link to it. So it just scroll down and put an anchor down there. And there's a big subhead that says the answer. But like the entertainment, I think, and the education is in that middle part.
He's such a good writer. It's absolutely. And to know that he does it on a typewriter just makes it even better. We're going to take a break.
Thank
Come
God
back with
for
more.
FedEx. They would not make a 6 Colors deadline without it.
I remember listening to my friend Will Hurst, who was at the time publisher of the San Francisco Examiner, exhorting his kind of, who was the guy who wrote Feeling and Loathing? Hunter S. Thompson. Who was writing a column for the Examiner at the time, just pleading and begging, Hunter, please, we got to print the freaking paper, finish your gosh darn column. And you might imagine how hard it was to get a column out of Hunter S. Thompson. I don't think Glenn has the same kind.
That's item 1 of the terms of service for Hunter S. Thompson. I think you click through, you should have read it before clicking through.
Please, Hunter, we gotta go to bed.
I edited several editor-in-chief columns over the years at Macworld and Mac User, and I've seen every story. I also edited Andy's column for a while. Sorry, Andy, shots fired. I've seen it all. So, Hunter S. Thompson,
I've been on the other end of that phone call a few times myself. Thank you for listening to the show. We're so glad you do. Thanks especially to our Club Twit members who make this show possible. You know who you are. If you're not yet a member of Club Twit, twit.tv/Club Twit, $7 a month. That price probably will go up because, tariffs. So if you join today, you'll be grandfathered in at the low price of $7 a month, $84 a year, ad-free versions of all the shows, access to the Club Twit Discord, special events, including, by the way, Micah's Crafting Corner, which is tomorrow at 6 p.m. Friday, we're going to do Stacy's Book Club, that great Ursula K. Le Guin novella, The Word for World is Forest. And WWDC is going to be in the club only. This is our new policy. Next Tuesday, MacBreak Weekly might be a little bit delayed because we're going to be streaming the Google I/O keynote. And Google says it's going to be 2 hours, starts at 10 a.m. So MacBreak Weekly will start probably at noon next week. And if you get here and you're not a club member and you'll say, what's going on? But if you're a club member, go right into the Discord because you will watch us talking about Google's announcements, lots of AI announcements. Build is the day before, next Monday. All of these keynotes now are club only. And that's not because we want to extort the money out of you, but frankly, because Apple has now tried very hard to get us off YouTube and Twitch when we restream their keynotes, and we just can't afford to be banned from either of those platforms. So instead of streaming as we have in the past on all those streaming platforms, as we do today on this show on all those streaming platforms, the keynotes from now on will be in the Discord. Join the club. You can watch twit.tv/club twit. You also don't have to watch live because there's a Twit Plus feed with all the Twit Plus club content that you can listen to at any time. Our show today brought to you by Storyblock. Hello, Storyblock. You know the pain. If talking about being an editor at a magazine or of a website of legacy CMSs, it's always the thing that makes or breaks. You know, for a writer, you can always blame the CMS. You can say, well, I wrote it and I put it in the CMS and it lost it. These legacy CMSs promise, enterprise-grade features, but what do you get? I know, you get slow, clunky systems that need developer support for even the smallest update. And when you're trying to move fast, that's a nightmare. Well, let me tell you, you need to know about Storyblock. Talk about a great content management system. Unlike those monolithic CMSs, Storyblock is headless, okay? Completely decouples your backend from your front end. So that means your developers can work any way they like with any framework they like, React, Astro, Vue, whatever, even plain old HTML. Marketers can use an intuitive visual editor to create and update content, but they don't have to go to the developers to fill tickets when they say, oh, no, that color needs to be different, or can you nudge that 2 pixels to the right? No, you could do it all yourself. And Storyblock scales. Whether you're a freelancer, working on your own, or part of a giant global enterprise, they have a global CDN, AWS data centers in the US, Europe, and Asia. Storyblock is built for performance at scale, and it is enterprise ready. All the features you would want come built in, baked in, role-based access control, enterprise SLAs, of course, top-tier security, the stuff Fortune 500s demand. One global e-commerce giant switched to Storyblock and cut content update cycles from weeks to hours. That sound familiar? Another major brand empowered marketing to launch campaigns independently, freeing up the developers for bigger projects. They got that beautiful CMS. They can do exactly what they want. Storyblock has an API-first approach, so your content loads fast anywhere in the world. That means better UX. That means higher engagement, improved SEO. And with their real-time visual editor, marketers are going to see exactly what their content will look like before publishing. No more going back and forth with minor tweaks and all of that. Developers, you get fewer interruptions. Marketers, you get more autonomy. It's a win-win. If you're an agency, you'll like this. Storyblock offers multi-client workspaces, flexible permissions, and seamless collaboration tools. You can manage multiple products without disrupting development workflows. So, whether you're a startup, an enterprise, or an agency juggling multiple clients, Storyblock gives you the power and flexibility you need. Try it out today. Storyblock.com/TwitTV-25. Oh, and use the code TWIT25. Twit listeners will get 20% off for the first 3 months on Growth and Growth Plus plans. So again, that's storyblock.com/TwitTV-25. The offer code TWIT25 gets you 20% off the first 3 months on Growth and Growth Plus plans. STORYBLOK.com/TWIT-TV-25. I said that slowly, so you can write that down. You're going to want to use it. And don't forget the offer code TWIT25 for 20% off the first 3 months of the Growth or Growth Plus plans. Thank you, Storyblock, for supporting the show and making this all possible. We appreciate it. And again, you support us when you use that URL and that code, so please do that. Storyblock.com/TWIT-TV-25 and the offer code TWIT25. All righty, let's see. Back to the shows. No more court stuff. promise. We're done. What else is going on? There's actually a lot of stories. We're might have to hustle through these. Netflix, because Apple is, opening up the App Store. Somebody said, Netflix, are you going to take advantage of that? No plans to bring back App Store subscriptions. They're also adding AI to their interface. What could possibly go wrong? Netflix. Remember, Netflix had a big. I can't remember what the prize was. It was a big prize for somebody that would come up with a better recommendation engine for Netflix, and nobody won because it's apparently so hard to do a good recommendation.
My cousin Dave, that's the best recommendation engine for Netflix.
Dave says, "Well, that's true. I end up watching a lot of stuff."
Hardcore Henry? Really?
Yeah.
Dude, I promise you. Okay, doesn't look like so. Oh my God, this is awesome.
Netflix. Okay, so this is a confusing headline. Netflix getting user interface with AI has no plans to bring back App Store subscriptions. But I think that's miswritten for this Apple Insider. I think what they're saying is they're not going to follow suit with companies like Spotify and Amazon. Netflix says we're monitoring the situation very closely, but we don't have anything more to share at this time. We're just continue to abide by the App Store policies until we hear more about how to best implement any changes going forward. So I think that was unclear when I read the headline.
Everybody has to know. Everybody has to know that Apple's going to appeal. Apple did file their firmware, and they're asking for a response by the end of May. So maybe we won't see someone jump until June.
Netflix is already doing third party. I mean, like you have to subscribe out. So there's no.
Oh, I see. That's why the headline. We're not going to add a button in the app to go buy. I get it. Okay.
I mean, they're already telling you have to go
can't buy it
somewhere else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right. Netflix just gave them a non-answer, saying no plans. That headline is cashing checks writing checks that can't cash.
I fell for it. I fell for the link bait.
Well, and they basically have no comment, and they could. I think what they would have to do is they'd have to put in. I don't know. It's if they're like Amazon, they could probably just put a link in directly to the sign up page.
Right. And it can't be that hard.
And be in the US only. Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is that there's again, because they already have third party, there's not really any major upside for them.
Right.
The downside is that you can be guaranteed that you're not going to make friends with Apple if you do. Amazon's big enough and other people are big enough, they don't care. But for a lot of people that want to have relationships with Apple, as soon as you do a third party, you're basically, recommendations, being on the keynote, all those things go away. So that's all going to just evaporate, and so Netflix
somehow I managed to get in this conversation again. I didn't want to.
No. All I'm saying is that Netflix has no upside, and
sure they do
it because.
Sure, they make it easier for the users, and they're big enough that it doesn't matter what Apple's doing, and big enough that
Jason.
I would say that Alex describes a very interesting case that a lot of attorneys would be interested in about retaliation against legal processes.
That's a good point.
And if we're saying that Apple is, there are a lot of people in operation in 2025 that we say we're going to do whatever they want us to do. We don't want to upset them for any reason, because they are stubborn and impertinent and dangerous and vindictive.
We're an
Apple podcast, and we should not be saying that.
Streamed Steve Jobs introducing the iPad, for instance, and then they never invited you to another event.
Yeah,
that would be illegal, wouldn't it?
No,
you have no right to be there.
Okay, never mind. I try. 27 years ago, Steve Jobs took the stage at the Flint Center to unveil the iMac.
It's true. This original.
This is when he came back, right? This is when, after Glenn Fleischman said, I'll never buy another Mac in 1998.
Steve came back. They did a crash program, and the next year they came out with the G3 iMac, which they, again, they assembled sort of out of some existing projects at Apple, and Johnny Ive did a new design for it and all of that. And it is... So I wrote this piece because it was an anniversary, and Macworld really loves it when I write about anniversaries, so I did it. But the point is, people don't realize how revolutionary the iMac was in so many ways, and how it represented such a break from the past. I feel like this is one of those things that's in Apple's DNA that we don't appreciate enough. People complain about Apple making things, breaking compatibility with old stuff. But this was a huge moment where they basically had this whole checklist of things that were in computers. And keep in mind, this was the era of the beige PC with a big cable going to a big beige CRT. And they made, yes, it was big, but they made an all-in-one, and they said doesn't have a floppy drive. Everything had a floppy
Has a
drive. It's
handle.
gone. Doesn't have
Yeah.
serial or parallel. Doesn't have ADB or SCSI, which were all the ports that you had on old Macs. Just gone. I mean, people were complaining when you went to USB-C in the 2010s on the laptops, and like that was big, but it was just a port change with a very simple adapter. But they were like, no, they're all gone. Everything is gone except for a brand new specification, USB, which is of course still with us even to this day. So like it was a huge moment, and I think people don't give it enough credit. And I think that, you know, if you look at it, the all-in-one computer for the rest of us, like Steve Jobs wasn't wrong about that. It just, I think, went in a place that maybe he didn't anticipate, which is the laptop, which is a take it anywhere all-in-one for the rest of us. But, you know, the iMac still has a place, but the iMac was a vitally important part of Apple's comeback, and it really did have a huge impact on computers, and it made the USB a safe place to be. It made George Foreman grills have a translucent blue model. It just had a huge amount of impact, and to this day, like the iMac colors today are they exist because of those colorful iMacs of the 90s.
They changed how we think about computers.
Yeah.
Fast forward 27 years later, Mark Gurman says Apple is kind of stagnating, that their product launch this year, launches in 2026, will be kind of dull. But don't worry, because Apple, says Gurman in his latest Power On newsletter for Bloomberg, is planning a monumental year for new devices in 2027.
2027. Well, the thing is that, I mean, these are all incrementally moving forward too. I mean, the thing is that I have to admit, I feel like the M4 Mac, as someone who is testing the M4 Mac minis for a variety of reasons.
It's pretty sweet.
Wow. Like it is the most amazing, and it's not the most powerful, but it is the most amazing most amazing desktop computer ever created. Like it is, I mean, what I can do with that, and I keep on like doing pretty hard stuff. Like, I'd like to stream 120 frames per second, you know, out of the HDMI. And it's like, yeah, I think I'm not sure if I'm still on yet. You know, like it's like 8% CPU to just punch out a bunch of video out of it. And then, you know, my son is like working in Resolve doing a 2.5 hour edit on it. And it is just
so interestingly, this mini isn't an iMac. You know, it's not an all-in-one. You have to still have a monitor, keyboard, mouse.
I think the minis are killing the iMac because they're so good, and they're so inexpensive. And the fundamentally, like I have a monitor that's 4K. I don't have a 5K or 6K monitor. I don't really, you know, I don't think my vision's good enough for that. And almost all my monitors that I work at, they're at a slight distance. And so they're all 1080p. They all cost about $100, you know, and I don't want to pay for an iMac. I don't want to mount the iMac. I got a bunch of little Mac minis here that are all attached to different things. And as glue, the Mac minis solve so many more problems. And when they break, they're so much less expensive. And the monitors can be cheap. The monitors can be mounted any way I want. I can put them in lots of different places. It's just it's a much better, in my opinion. I mean, again, the iMac, I think, had its moment. When we buy something for my parents-in-law, when we update their iMac every couple of years, and we just buy them an iMac because I don't want, you know, like that's easy for them to turn on. You know, they still need a computer. An iPad's not enough. They're doing enough with it, but I don't want them to have to figure out how to play.
I think of it as the dentist's office computer.
I spent some time a few years ago talking to an iMac product manager, and it's very clear, first off, that again, it's Apple's scale. The iMac makes a lot of money for Apple to this day, but it is a niche computer in a lot of ways that it wasn't certainly in 1997. But like laptops are, again, 3/4 of the Macs out there. And Alex, you know, properly extols the virtues of the Mini, and I would even say the Studio qualifies as that. But the iMac, you know, it's a shared computer whether it's in a home or it's in a school, or it's at a library, or it's at a desk in a hotel. And I know these are all like weird cases, but like nobody knows where these things are being used better than Apple, and Apple knows that they're being used in those places. And so I think that's one of the reasons the colors really work, is because they are kind of environmental objects, right? You put your laptop wherever and then put it in a bag and take it someplace. But the iMac sort of lives where it lives. And so you're like, oh, well, in this hotel lobby, we'll get the green one or whatever. And then it sits there, or at this reception desk in an office. And so it's got very specific purposes. But the truth is, it is when it came, it was like the computer for the rest of us, and now it is a very niche within a niche almost, because it's a desktop computer and it's an all-in-one, and so it's got limited appeal, but that's still a pretty good business for Apple, even so. But yeah, I mean, I had an iMac for quite a while. There's one behind me, but I don't now.
I've got a couple little behind me, but like I was talking to a school about their multimedia program, and they have all these iMacs from 2017, because it's expensive to upgrade them all. And I was like, you should just get Mac Minis, just get a bunch of Mac Minis and put a bunch of monitors out there. It's going to be a lot, you'll be able to upgrade them more often. And they're going to be, these little M4s again are just massive.
What do you think of Mark Gurman's contention that Apple is kind of coasting? He says the lack of groundbreaking change has taken a toll. Sales of the iPhone have tapered and are lower than they were 2 years ago. The Apple Watch suffered a 14% revenue drop last year, according to an analyst estimate. Overall revenue is only slowly picking up again after a stagnant stretch. Is all of that?
I just all I can say as a user is I really wish Apple would actually go slower and make everything work. So my biggest complaint about Apple is not all the behaviors we talked about earlier. My biggest complaint about Apple is they keep on adding features and not actually getting them to all work perfectly together. And that was something that I always depended on Apple for, and something that I depend on Apple less and less for is they keep on adding all these things. AI is one example, but there's many, many solutions that are just quirky and weird, and they just need time to settle in. I would love for Apple to release, just keep updating the products that they have for the next 2 years until 2027 or whatever, and just make them all just work on the glue that goes between them and make them all work better that way. I'd be a happy camper.
2027 is a probably important year because it will be the 20th anniversary of the iPhone. So Apple may indeed, want to take advantage of that. That's the rumor. It's funny. Different people say different timeframes for the folding phone. Yeah. I've heard both 2026 and Gurman's holding steady at 2027.
I think those of us outside Apple are more fascinated with these big anniversaries than people inside Apple are. I mean, if it just so happens that they have a major release that was planned for about then sure. And when they write the marketing material, they will they'll mention it. But it's not as though. Remember that the Apple did once do a Mac release specifically for the anniversary of the launch of the original Mac, and it didn't go that great. It wasn't a computer that anybody really wanted.
It was for the launch of the company and not the original Mac, and they missed the date by a year. But yeah, I mean, it was a disaster on another whole scale. Leo, to answer your question, I think this is narrative making by Mark Gurman, who is very good at reporting, but Bloomberg seems to really want him to tell little stories about Apple and build a narrative around it. And I think that this is a weakly sourced narrative. Like his iPhone thing, it's like iPhone sales are flat. It's true. They are flat. They're not down really, not I think appreciably. They're basically flat. And what he seems to be saying ultimately is, I'm bored. Do something new.
That's kind of,
and like,
that's
I get
what he's saying.
I get it, but again, $90 billion in profits every year. But yeah, I'm bored. Do something new. I would say that and he has to like poo-poo the things that, like Vision Pro. He's like, well, granted, Vision Pro is a new and interesting product, but it hasn't exactly flown off the shelves. It's like, well, it was never going to fly off the shelves at that price. It was never going to do that. I do think it's true that Apple put a lot of effort into Vision Pro and into the car, and got nothing from it. And that what we're seeing now is the echo of that, where they did some stuff that didn't even reach the waterline, and they've got one thing that reached the waterline but didn't make any ripples, and that makes it a lot harder for them to also do all these other things. Also, I think some of this is natural. I think the folding screen thing is a place Apple wants to go and has just not been satisfied with it, because 100%. all the other folding phones that are out there are kind of like, they're okay. They're interesting from a tech perspective, but I could see somebody at Apple being like, not with this, fold, not with this ridge in the middle of the display. We're not going to do it. So I think he's making something out of not nothing, but out of just a little bit. I don't think that this is a case where I think it's literally you're looking at the ebb and flow and the troughs and then the waves, and trying to build a narrative around it to say Apple is low right now and in 2 years they're going to be high again. When the fact is, I think making a big narrative over it is probably a mistake.
A Korean leaker quoted by 9to5 Mac, 1122 says that Apple is getting a better display for the iPhone Fold than the one that Samsung is putting in the Galaxy Fold. Samsung will sell the display to Apple, but it's going to be a newer version.
I have to admit, I buy a lot of Apple products. I have negative interest in a folding phone. Like it's like I just know, like I don't know anybody who's bought a second folding phone, and for me the whole workflow of it doesn't make any sense.
I do too.
Yeah, I
bought three. So you do know somebody.
We'll see. No, I said no
for the people who
but I agree with you. I don't use it.
No, I said I don't know anybody. I don't know I don't know people who have bought two in a row like that. You know, like that have you have. Okay.
The thing is, like, there are people who are fans of folding phones. There are people who are not fans of folding phones because they are clunky and early tech, and because of that ditch. This report from the supply chain says that not only have they gotten rid of the ditch by working directly with Samsung, but they've also made this potentially the thinnest foldable phone that you've ever seen. But the great thing that I think that would attract Apple to this is that they love good margins. They love good margins.
Well, and they have a problem because they don't want to say the tariffs are killing the. They don't want to raise the prices because of tariffs, because that will annoy who.
Yeah.
Voldemort.
Wall Street Journal had a good article on that, where they're basically saying that Apple is and according to a source inside Apple, this Wall Street Journal exclusive, they're saying that they know that there is a very real reality in which they will have to raise prices, but they do not want to call them a tariff raise. So they're preparing a narrative that we've got a new phone and these new great expensive features and these new great expensive styling, and basically pin it on, wow, we're bringing so much new technology here that, well, of course we had to raise it by what happens to be what percentage are we paying in tariffs? By that much.
Yeah. And then Kerman's talking about glasses and a bunch of
it's like I understand. I agree 100% with Jason. And the other thing that was missing from that was, okay, like such as what? Like, what is it that they are not building that they should be building? I think that the one answer that comes to mind is they missed the boat on wearable, like on
Meta Ray-Bans.
Meta Ray-Bans, something as simple as that. But other than that, they put a lot of time and effort and ingenuity and money into the car that didn't work out. They put a lot of money, time, and ingenuity into the fancy elf goggles that are great for what they are, but not really a mass market success.
Well, you know what Meta is going to do? Meta has a nuclear option. If Apple does do glasses, there's a feature Apple will never build into their glasses. A feature I would love, but privacy advocates would scream about, which is face recognition. And according to the information, Meta is, and they don't care, right? Yeah. They don't mind. They know they can get away with it. They're going to put face recognition in the next generation Ray-Bans.
Apple will do it too. I mean, I think if they believe that it's useful, they'll absolutely do it. They will absolutely do it. I think
Google had that capability and didn't.
What are we? I mean, have we not learned in the last few months that Apple will do anything that it feels that is necessary to survive, including incorporating third-party LLMs in their operating system if they need to, and maybe lying in front of a judge. I think
that what's interesting is that if Apple could do it where they look at your photo library, the people you've already identified. Yeah. They're telling you who they are, like who's in front of you that is related to that, and giving you information, but it all stays inside of the your personal Apple ecosystem. Where Meta, it will share it with Meta, and then it will
search all search engines and all databases everywhere and find everything about that person. And although even there, if that became an existential crisis for Apple, for that product to be accepted, I think they would do it. I think they would dress it up with some privacy restrictions and things, and say it's only going to search the public web and only when you authorize it and whatever. But I agree with Alex that the way it would start would be it's identifying people in your photo library who you've already met and you've already tagged. But I think they will do whatever is necessary to make it a good product. And there are, I don't think that there are sacred cows in that way. I think Apple will implement features it thinks it needs to implement and try to do it in a way that is safe and private. But I don't think there's a lot, I get the sense that they won't be willing to try if it's going to make or break a product.
Yeah. And the information's contention is that privacy worries are fading across Silicon Valley with the new administration. With less aggressive regulators in Washington, they write, Meta platforms, Google, and other Silicon Valley companies feel emboldened to reconsider user privacy strategies.
I think it already was fading. I think the reaction, remember, if you compare the reaction to Google Glass,
Yeah.
the modern,
So negative.
the modern Snapchat and Meta glasses with cameras, like, I feel like everybody just kind of, there was a moment and that the moment passed, and then people are like, because the fact is, I was thinking about this the other day. The fact is, everybody's got a camera everywhere, and I know that holding up a phone and taking pictures of things and people is an invasion of privacy on one level, but at the same time, I'm not saying that there's a panopticon of every camera connected to make a single panopticon, but like when you're out in public, you have to assume that you are being photographed or videoed. That's just where we are. Everybody has multiple lenses in their pocket,
including
all the
your
time.
city government.
But not just that, but also literally everyone else.
Everywhere.
And so, I don't know. I feel like culturally,
Ring camera on
if
every
you're in your
door.
20s or 30s, I think you just got to assume that every moment is being photographed.
And you're used to it. You're accepting it. I think Google's concern about face recognition is that guys would use it to stalk women. And that's a very legitimate concern. The information story, which is quite interesting, says that Meta, which used to have a whole review process for high-risk features, is now automating its risk reviews through a process it calls, and this should scare everybody, self-certification. Product teams confirm by themselves they have met requirements for addressing and reducing risk, according to the Post. So we're back to move fast and break things with Meta.
It's always been their philosophy. It's interesting with a device like a wearable cameras. I would absolutely trust Apple. I would acquiesce to Google. There's no way in hell I would buy a pair. I would love a pair of. I would love a device exactly like the Meta Ray-Bans, but the connection to Facebook is a 100% deal breaker.
Yeah.
And I think that part of it is also that the Meta Ray-Bans, you don't notice. I was at a lunch with somebody, and it took me halfway through lunch. I suddenly realized they were wearing Meta Ray-Bans. There's like two cameras. Now, I guess I don't know how that works, but they have a light that turns on when
there's
it's
a red
recording.
light when you're recording.
But you don't know that. Yeah.
Right. What
also,
but
they're not hiding the cameras. It's just you have to look specifically at the corners.
But again, I didn't notice it until I was.
You just don't notice it.
You just don't notice it until you're, immediately like with.
You're going to have to get
Glass,
in the habit of examining everybody's glasses a little more closely. Just pay a little more attention to that.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else? I'm just looking. Pope Leo wears an Apple Watch. Is that a big story?
It's interesting.
He's the first pope to wear an Apple Watch.
First pope to wear an Apple Watch. First pope with a Twitter history that we could worry about. A bunch of gaming sites were talking about, well, he's a gamer. He was playing Wordle and Words with Friends with his brother, like while he was waiting for the vote.
He's my age, so that doesn't mean Francis was definitely not very technical. We know that because Father Robert helped him with setting up things like Zoom. But it's very clear that the new Pope Leo, named, is quite technical. There's his Apple Watch peeking out.
One of his first statements was about AI is the new industrial revolution, not as a good thing, but as a potential for abusing and putting down people who are already disenfranchised and impoverished in our country, in the world, and we have to be very, very much alert about that.
And contrary potentially to human dignity, depending on how it's applied, which is really interesting.
Well, welcome to the United States, Pope Leo, because already the Congress is sneaking a little addendum into the budget, which means it'll probably get through, saying states cannot make a law against AI for the next 10 years. So we are in a move fast and break things AI situation.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but also we found out that he's a Chicago White Sox fan.
He's a White Sox East Side.
South Side. Yeah. I mean, he's from the southern suburbs, and his
brother said he would never be a Cubs fan ever.
And actually, they found frames of him on the Fox broadcast of the 2005 World Series, which is amazing. So I mean, it's not that. I mean, Pope Francis was a huge fan of a particular Argentinian soccer team.
Yeah, he was a soccer fan.
It's not unreasonable for this sort of thing to happen, but for it to be an American Pope and an American
And so was
context
Jude Law when he was Pope. He was a big
sure
sucker
when he was
for
the
that.
young Pope.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what about Stanley Tucci in Conclave? But spoilers for Conclave, he didn't quite get it. Anyway, it is. But Apple Watch, I mean, isn't that funny? Look, live long enough, you see a Pope wearing an Apple Watch. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Don't delete the email that you get from Lopez Voice Assistant. I did not get the email. I immediately searched it. But there is a $95 million settlement. Lopez versus Apple Computer. 2019 class action that says Apple violated user privacy by recording their conversations and forwarding them to third-party contractors. You remember that Apple apologized and turned it off, but they did agree to a $95 million settlement. So if you get email from I would delete this immediately. info at LopezVoiceAssistantSettlement.com. That's not fake. Now I think you had to apply earlier to get the settlement. So. But anybody who owns a Siri-enabled device between September 17th and 2014 and September 31st, 2024, and has experienced Siri activating, seemingly it's on its own, well, duh. Oh, you can still go and get up to $100 or $20 per device. Go to the settlement website, which probably has some horrible name like Apple versus Lopez Settlement.com.
I mean, free burrito, man. It's like, it's not a lot of money, but think about the free burrito.
$100? You could buy a few burritos.
Well, isn't it like maximum of $100? And it's like,
it's 20 per device, up to 5 devices. Yeah. So, so you still have till July to apply. I think that's 10 years. Anybody who had any Siri devices is eligible.
And also, like, I don't know about if you have the same thought, Jason. It's like, how many times did I register a brand new Apple loaner device? And then, like, I sent it back after 6 months. But does that mean that I can get, like, is it ethical for me to try to collect $100 for all those phones I registered?
I want to stay in the settlement.
$100 would buy mini burritos.
If you receive an email, so look for an email or a postcard notifying you that you may be a member.
Yeah, it was in my Gmail spam, so people should definitely check that out.
Okay. So that's the only way to get payment. You have to find that email and then do whatever it says in the email. Okay, that's good to know. Hey, I just made you $100.
Thanks, Leo.
What's the title of the email?
Lopez Voice Assistant Class Action Settlement. By the way, if you are not a Twit member and Leo just saved you $100, you got to become a Twit member.
You should join.
You owe us
join the club.
$100.
Yeah,
or a membership.
That gets you a year and a half right there. Boom, like that. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. It says if you didn't... Oh, Anthony had found a link at LopezVoiceAssistantSettlement.com. If you did not receive a personalized notice in the mail or via email, click New Claim below to complete a claim form. So you can do it on the website. I just missed it. So there's no excuse for you not to do that. Get that money. Where do you see that? I don't... Okay. Put a link in the show notes for everybody, so you can all get you $100. Should we talk about the C1 modem? By the way, I did mention the 18.5 is out. There are, 30 different security fixes. So even if you don't care about new emojis or anything, you might want to get 18.5 installed. There are not a lot of new features, as we talked about before.
Yeah.
But good to do. All right. I think we were going to take a break here, and we shall get to our picks of the week, I think. Unless you have any other stories that we should do that I've missed. China will open it. Oh, I did. Okay, I didn't do this. I should probably do this. There is a little conversation between Tim Cook and the president we should talk about. We'll get to that in just a moment. But first, a word from our sponsor. This show at MacBreak Weekly brought to you quite literally by CashFly. How many times have you heard me say that? Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com/twit. For over 20 years, CacheFly has held the track record for high-performing, ultra-reliable content delivery, serving over 5,000 companies in over 80 countries. We've been using CacheFly here for a decade. We love their lag-free, actually more than a decade, almost 20 years now. Their lag-free video loading, their hyper-fast downloads, those friction-free site interactions. CacheFly is the only CDN built for throughput. They deliver ultra-low latency video streaming. Oh, get this. Over 1 million concurrent users for less than 1 second latency, with less than 1 second latency. If gaming company, you'll love their lightning fast gaming. It delivers downloads faster with zero lags, glitches, or outages. And if you've got images anywhere on your site or in your content, you'll love mobile content optimization. CacheFly does automatic and simple image optimization so your site can load faster on any size screen. Now, the thing we really liked about CacheFly, because we were new at this, we didn't know, what our bandwidth needs were going to look like from day to day. So they'll give you flexible month-to-month billing as long as you need it. Once you know what your bandwidth needs are, you can get discounts for fixed terms. The point is you design your own contract when you switch to CacheFly. CacheFly delivers rich media content up to 158% faster than other major CDNs and allows you to shield your site content in the cloud, ensuring 100% cache hit ratio. With CacheFly's elite managed packages, you get the VIP treatment. Your dedicated account manager will be with you from day one, ensuring a smooth implementation and reliable 24/7 support when you need it. We love that, by the way, the new CacheFly storage technology is mind-blowing. We've moved over to that. It's fast. It's flexible. They just get better all the time. This is not a company that sits on their laurels. Learn how you can get your first month free at cachefly.com/twit. Again, that's CacheFly.com/twit. Thank you, CacheFly. We really appreciate it. So, I didn't even mention it. I guess we're getting so used to this whole red light, green light thing with tariffs. Over the weekend, the Chinese tariffs were reduced from 145% to 30%. And this is a classic bait and switch because actually 30% is still really high, but it's a lot less than 145%. China did the same in return. President Trump says the new trade deal is a total reset with China. And he spoke to Tim Apple about the whole thing. And Tim Apple was very excited.
He's pretty sure that he's going to up that $500 billion too.
Yeah,
that means.
Yeah. More factories in the. Let me see if I can find that quote because it was pretty funny. More factories in the U.S. Apple had already committed to $500 billion in build outs.
Which is what they were going to do anyway. Yeah,
they were going to do it anyway. But maybe they're going to even do more. President Trump says Apple's going to up its numbers. From CNBC, I spoke to Tim Cook this morning. He's going to, I think, even up his numbers. $500 billion. He's going to be building a lot of plants in the United States for Apple. We look forward to that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. They're building a lot of plants. I don't know how many will be in the United States, but they're definitely not in China.
Well, and to get carbon neutral, you got to plant a lot of plants. So maybe that's
that kind of plants.
Talk about plants.
That kind of plants.
You gotta take away a lot of grazing land from a lot of people in Brazil in order to meet those goals.
Earlier this month, Cook told investors about the company's tariff strategy on an earnings call. According to CNBC, he said Apple's currently sourcing American-bound products from production locations in Vietnam and India, but did not want to speculate beyond June, calling the situation difficult to predict. Yes, that's a good description of it. There is a 90-day period now where we at least know it'll be 30%. Or do we?
Yeah, it's temporary. It's not like a permanent thing. So so basically, if you got another 90 days to decide whether or not you're going to buy like a maxed out Mac Mini, minimum.
Well, but still 30. I got to tell you, 30% is more than it was, right? I mean, that's still a big.
Yeah. It's still a problem, but it's still
a lot.
Constantly in motion is the tariff future.
Apple says it's not going to mention tariffs in its price hikes. It's just going to give you more bang for your buck or something. Apple TV. I'm excited about this. Jude Law and Andrew Garfield are going to play Siegfried and Roy in a new series.
Hello, Siegfried.
Hello, Roy. Hello, Roy. It's going to be called, we're on TV, Wild Things. I don't know who's going to be Siegfried and who's going to be Roy, but
that was my question too. I could see it going either way, or maybe it'll be like the Broadway version of The Odd Couple, where they keep like switching roles every night just to keep it fresh.
It's
every
a little
episode.
Unnerving that it's being created by the showrunner for Only Murders in the Building.
Might not be frolicsome. Yeah,
that's a frolicsome show. It's based on the Apple podcast Wild Things. An 8-hour series that, quote, tells the wild ride relationship tale of two of the greatest showman magicians in history, who, along with their white tigers, are tasked with turning Sin City into a family-friendly destination.
While fighting crime.
Let's see. What other Apple TV news? Seth Rogen apparently said no to Tim Cook. I haven't seen this episode yet, but apparently there is in the, I think it's the Golden Globes episode of the new series, The Studio, which mixed feelings about. That's not the greatest ever, but it's kind of fun.
I love it.
Do you love it?
I do. I think it's really funny.
It's a little whiplashy, and it's, it's all that drum and one shot and all that stuff. Anyway, apparently Sarandos...
Ted Sarandos, CEO.
Ted Sarandos, who's the president of Netflix, appears in this Apple TV production. In episode 8, Rogen's beleaguered studio head, Matt Remick, attends the Golden Globes. Matt is stressed about the idea of not getting a shout-out in the acceptance speech. An ongoing bit is that every winner from a Netflix project effusively thanks Sarandos in their speech without fail. In the end, Matt has an encounter with Sarandos, who reveals he puts it in artists' contracts. They have to thank him in acceptance speeches. So apparently, according to this Business Insider piece, Apple said, hey, could Tim Cook be in that? Could it be Tim Cook? And Seth Rogen said, no.
It wouldn't make any sense.
It wouldn't make any sense. It had to be, for the joke, it had to be Netflix, right?
Yeah. And this speaks well of Apple too, because if you look at there were a lot of little quick hit stories based on this interview, and it was just like Apple basically said, "Hey, how about we use Tim here as a cameo?" And he just said no, and Apple said, "Okay, that's fine." And there are a lot of headlines I've seen about this, like Seth bans Tim Cook refuses Apple's demand to use Tim Cook. And it's like, you're taking something that's a light bit of fun and you're trying to make it something awful. Just don't do that.
And it wouldn't have worked in the script. I bet you, though, you'll see Tim Cook at some point. If it did get picked up, didn't it? I think it got picked up for another season.
Yeah.
It is a little subversive because Apple, focuses on really high quality content, that isn't necessarily branded and everything else. And they released a show that not only is really entertaining, but kind of kicks everybody who's making anything less than that, and so it's, I think that I'm not saying Apple asked for that. I'm saying that Seth Rogen might have sold that to them. Like, in addition to it, it also talks about all the other stuff, and they might have sweetened the pot. But I don't think Apple asked for that kind of programming. I just think that might have been an angle that might have been thought of when pitching it.
Also, I wonder if Seth Rogen is thinking, no, I've got something planned for when we deploy the Tim Apple, we're going to deploy Tim Apple.
Could be.
And this is not the place for that.
And they did pick it up for a second season, so plenty more options for Tim Apple to appear.
I have to admit, the one that I'm really looking forward to is Murderbot. Like, I don't know why. That trailer is so good.
It was a great book, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I was
great series,
and it just looks so good. And I was just like, I don't know. I'm embarrassed that I'm waiting for a show that's called Murderbot.
So good.
Well, it's comedic.
Good.
It's funny.
It looks so good. It looks so good.
It's the Weitz brothers who did American Pie and About a Boy. They're very good. The source material is so good, and the reviews have been good so far that I've seen. That they really nail that. It's sci-fi action mixed with a lot of interpersonal comedy about a character who really doesn't want people to look at them or pay attention to them in any way, which is like awkward. Who hasn't felt that kind of awkwardness? So,
right.
I'm looking forward to that.
That's me at every party I go to be honest. Yeah.
You could be a murder bot.
you'll find me in the corner, losing my religion. All right. Now we can do the picks of the week. Get ready, boys and boys. It's coming up next. You're watching MacBreak Weekly with Andy Anako, Alex Lindsay, and Jason Snell. We're so glad you're here. Jason Snell, why don't you kick things off with your pick?
Well, I was one of the things I did last week when I was in Arizona visiting my mom for her birthday is give her a birthday present. And I am now going to make her birthday present my pick of the week. It's the iPhone 16e.
Oh, now you can write it off.
It is. Yeah, now it's a business expense. Excellent. $599 plus we traded in her old phone, which was a third generation iPhone SE. It's got $100, so it was $499. And the thing is, it is great. Like, again, if you are a tech connoisseur, perhaps you personally want a more phone than this, but it's iPhone 16. It's got the processor for it. It'll do Apple Intelligence whenever they ship the rest of those features. It's got the action button on it. It does not have camera control. I was happy not to have more buttons to explain to my mom. It's got only one camera on the back, but you know what? It's a pretty good camera. It's light. The battery life is bananas, and the price is good, and it's for a modern phone that is going to last a long, long time. So this pitch is sort of not for our listeners necessarily as much as it is for the people who come to our listeners for advice about what iPhone to upgrade to, or do they need a new iPhone. Do not sleep on the iPhone 16e. It is... One of the things I like about it is it's a modern iPhone. It doesn't feel like it's a relic of the past like all the SE models have always felt. It feels like today's iPhone, but a cheap version of it that, frankly, will be a crowd pleaser. You know, most people will not care that it's not a Pro or that it doesn't have the second or third camera on it. And yeah, so I'm very happy, and I'm happy she's got it too, because a funny thing, you may know this if you're taking care of your older relatives, old skin is not as reliable with Face or with Touch ID. The fingers get all kind of like pruny, and they can't use Touch ID anymore. My mom basically is immune to Touch ID.
Oh, no.
And Face ID works great. So she can now just flip the phone open. We had to go through the thing where she's used to a home button, so we had to do the whole, like, no, you need to flip at the bottom. And she keeps putting her thumb down where the home button should be. And I'm like, yeah, just push it up from there and you'll get there. But it's a little learning curve, but and we had to replace her lightning cables with USB-C cables, right? So there's some stuff going on. I bought her a case and I bought her a power adapter because I really did want her to get that full experience, because she was back on USB-A and lightning cables before. But just what pretty great deal for a modern iPhone. So highly recommend iPhone 16e.
Nice. Very nice. Okay. Now you can give it back to Mom.
Yep, she can take it.
Did you say to her, hey, Mom, I got to show it on the show so I can get the tax deduction?
This one's the Apple loaner.
Oh,
this is the review unit.
What color did you get her?
She got a white one. This is a black one, but she got a white one with with the purpley red case.
Nice. Very nice. I have two picks. I was using your weather pick, Jason, for a while because it was the one that's going to follow you around.
Mercury weather.
As you travel, Mercury. And then I found this one, Windy, and I'm actually really impressed with this. One of the things I like about Windy, which is iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch, is you can choose the weather model you want. You can get hyper-local weather, and you can get maps of wind and rain and storms and everything, motion maps. It's really a beautiful weather app. $24 if you want the premium no ads version per year, so it's a little more than your choice. And it has that feature, although it's not as easily accessible, but you can give it waypoints in your travels, and it will follow those along, so you can see the weather everywhere you're going. Windy. And then I have another pick. I'm getting a lot of picks out of the way. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that I got the new 360 camera. I really like this from Insta, the X5. And I have to say the image quality is really good. And I found a mount that is really nice for it. It's a magnetic mount. So I have it on the Insta tripod, but it makes it very easy to get it on and off the mount. It's magnetic, but it does grip in there, and then you have a release on it. And it's from, ironically, the same company, Ulanzi, that makes one of your picks, Jason, the aluminum Mac Mini case, which I bought and love. Oh
yeah.
So that was I thought that was the greatest thing ever. But let me show you the release. It's a little hard. You have to know it because it's designed for the Insta360 Action Cam, but it's the same mount. And because it is now, that makes it an Action Cam mount because you have these flip down ears that you could use with any GoPro style mount. So it really is a good flexible, quick release mount for the X5. I thought I'd mention it, and not very expensive. Alex Lindsay, your pick of the week.
So a lot of times I have to go to locations and I have to figure out what cameras are we going to use, what lenses are we going to use, how are we going to put this together, what is the framing going to be, where do we need to put things and where we need to take them away. And I can't take my Blackmagic camera or my Arri or that I'm renting or whatever to the location. It look geeky if I was walking around with this big camera, like looking through it and changing lenses while we're just doing a walkthrough. So I use one of two apps, Artemis Pro, which I've talked about in the past, and CAD Rage. And so I really like CAD Rage as an app. So what this does is it'll let you CAD Rage lets you simulate a certain lens on a camera. So you can say, I have a 28 millimeter lens on a Blackmagic Ursa G2, and it'll simulate what you would see. So you can look through your camera and go, oh, this is what this would look like. And it allows you to, you can capture that image so you can put it in, and organize it and so on and so forth, of like, this is the frame that if we're standing here, it can grab that. And if you haven't used it before, if you haven't used a tool like this before, super useful if you're trying to figure things out. I know some directors that will use it on set instead, just real quickly to think about things. But I use it mostly in my when I'm pre-visiting a location and trying to figure out what cameras are going to work. There's nothing worse than trying to, normally the other option is for you to bring all the lenses. Like I don't know what we're going to do here, but we're going to bring all the lenses. And so anyway, that's CAD Rage, and it's a great app for the phone. CAD
Rage, because there's never enough rage in your CAD.
Exactly.
Why do they call it Rage?
I don't know. It might be Cadridge or
Cadridge.
We just call it. It might not be
even
rage.
Worse.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like cabbage.
Cabbage, but with a CAD.
Cabbage with CAD.
Yeah.
CAD Rage, Director's Viewfinder. I think you should have that thing you carry around your neck, the little lens that the pros carry around their neck. Don't you have that?
I don't have one of those. Those are expensive. And again, the thing is that you hook a lot of those things onto the actual lens to look through it. So it's a little viewfinder that you end up with to do those accurately. And the thing is if I use that, I can't capture all the images and send was in.
This is perfect because you're taking pictures of the different aspect ratios.
I had a shoot in Angkor Wat in Cambodia, and I was doing previs for it 6 weeks ahead of time. So I flew to Angkor Wat, and we looked at all the locations, and I'm sitting there capturing all the and then the person will be over here, and then the person will be over there, and then we'll do this, and this is the part of the temple that will be behind them, and this, and I know
a whole storyboard that way.
So you build the whole storyboard that way. I had a couple people that I was with, and I just said, okay, stand here. I think in some cases I grabbed two tourists and I said, I'll pay you $50 each just to walk around with me for an hour. Is that okay? And they're like, sure. I just bought them lunch, and so then I just walked them around and had them be the people and shot all the things. But then I come home with my phone with all those shots.
You're right. This is much better.
And then I can't carry a camera around in Cambodia. No. I mean, just getting into the country is a thing, So anyway, so then we figured it all out. 6 weeks later, we came back and, we have all the stuff we needed, that was rented from Singapore and brought through customs and, all the things. And we were able to get just what we needed.
It's so funny. The phone does so much now that all those rules, like when we were inside the pyramids in Egypt, down inside looking, this is a newly opened one. The colors were spectacular. No cameras. But everybody has a phone now. And it's as good a camera as anything. And so I got great pictures, and they just you can't ban that stuff anymore. Customs can't say, well, you can't bring the phone into the country.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Everything should be on the phone. Andy Anatko, pick of the week.
My pick is something that I wish I didn't have to pick because it's one of my favorite apps. It's called Graphic, and it is basically, if you're an old schooler, it's like Mac Draw for the Mac and for the iPhone and for the iPad. It's a vector drawing app, but it's designed to be dirt simple. It's like if I had to draw like a Venn diagram as an illustration for something, and with an app like Graphic, you can just knock that out in like 10 minutes. If that. If you need to like create a poster for like a yard sale, you can knock that out in 5 minutes, if that, without any restrictions on what you want to do. There are so many really great vector drawing apps, but they almost all have aspirations towards being well, of course you're trying to draw an Art Nouveau poster that's an advertisement for your new whatever, and it's supposed to be 80 inches by 72 inches, like door size. Great, we'll help you do that. It's like, no, I really just want up here, I want like yard sale. At the bottom, I want the address, and in the middle, I want to say futon, kitchen stuff, garage stuff, and please just let me do that in 3 minutes and get gone. Graphic is the best app for doing simple things like that. You can do
it's good to describe it that way because the images on the website make you think, well, this is for designers. This isn't for me. But you're right. You need this for posters.
It's like Print Shop, Broderbund Print Shop. Again, another fish for the old schoolers. But the reason why I don't want to recommend it is that it hasn't been updated in 7 years. Autodesk bought it, and then they did something with it, and then they just said, I guess we're done with that. Like, even if you go to like their social medias, it's not as though there's somebody who's like, every 3 months, like, hey, did you know that you can do this in the app? It's like, it hasn't been abandoned. It still works fine. I still use it all the time. It's still very cheap. You can buy it. $30 and it's perfect. It syncs through iCloud, so it's very, very easy to sync between devices. I would recommend that you also look at an app called Amadine, Amadina. I like it. It's just a little bit more complicated than I would like it to be. But I just have trouble recommending an app that has not been updated in 7 years. If you spend $30 for this, maybe the next big OS update is the OS update in which this thing breaks, and no one's gonna fix it. But I'll at least let you know that Graphic is the app that I would love to be like the baseline for simple vector drawing apps. There are too many apps that, again, they try to be a lot. They service professionals, and they try to. And of course, the ad copy will always say, "Oh, well, it's great for beginners or the professional." Like, yeah, but unfortunately, you can't just like. Please hide. You got 28 tool icons over there on the left. Could you hide all but like 18 of them for me? No. Well, do I have to do everything on like 13 layers? You don't have to use all of them, but yeah, you do have to like be manipulating layers. And it's like, again, I just want a garage sale sign, or I just want to put a sign on my front door that says I'm podcasting, go away. So Amadine for people who want a future, Graphic for people who want something that will definitely be a simple drawing program, but may or may not be around in a year or two.
For people who love the past.
Yes.
Andy Anatko, thank you so much. Great to see you.
Great to be here. Thanks, guys.
I don't think you have anything to plug, do you?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's coming soon.
It is.
Okay. That's Jason Snell. He's got much to plug, sixcolors.com, but he never rests because he's also a future Jeopardy champion and the host of many a podcast.
Future Jeopardy champion.
Call me. Yeah, my kid's an honors student.
Can you buy a T-shirt that says Future Jeopardy champion?
That would be a good kid's shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know if for an adult it's a little creepy.
Yeah. Sixcolors.com. People should check it out. We got lots of good stuff there this week. The Glenn stuff and Shelley's thing about accessibility.
That's so great that you are doing so well, and you're able to bring Glenn in and all of that. I think this is just great. It's getting better. How are you doing that? It's getting better.
Just getting some good people I know to write stuff.
I love that.
It's good.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Leo.
Alex Lindsay, officehours.global. Q&A time.
Q&A every day, some evenings, weekends. We just do Q&A. It's a Q&A fest. We also, Gray Matter is still cranking away. We had we had Michael McFaul, who was the former ambassador to Russia, to talk about Ukraine, and then only the week before that, Robert Lustig, who talks a lot about sugar, as poison. So that's the kind of range you get in the as Andy drinks his Coke. So anyway,
that's okay. It's Mexican sugar. It's different.
Yeah, and so anyway, we've it's been we're having some incredible conversations at greatmatter.show, and so definitely worth checking out as well.
Corn syrup, that's freedom sugar, man.
Yeah,
freedom
USA.
Okay, only the best. Graymatter.show. Yeah, I really think McFaul is fascinating. I'm going to have to listen to this.
Really good conversation.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex, Andy, Jason. Thanks to all of you who watch. We do the show every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC. You can watch us on 8 different channels. Of course, club members get their own behind the velvet rope access in our Club Twit Discord. But everybody, the unwashed masses, can watch on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. You're not unwashed. You bathe every day. I know you do. YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, X.com. They don't wash there. Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick.com. Watch live if you want, but of course you can always watch after the fact as well. In fact, I encourage you to do that. You can get copies of the show at twit.tv/MBW. You can watch on YouTube. There's a dedicated MacBreak Weekly channel, great for sharing clips with friends and fam. And of course, you can subscribe in your favorite podcast player. Do me a favor, if you subscribe, leave us a good review. I used to say 5-star review, but some of them don't do they do 4 stars. Leave us the best review you can, in good conscience. Leave us. How about that? On your favorite podcaster. I'm also was asked to remind club members, but everybody, that twit.tv/newsletter is our free newsletter. Occasionally, club members say, how do you find out about the events coming up that you're going to do for the club? If you're not in the Discord, it might not be easy unless you subscribe to the newsletter. Everything is there. Newsletter highlights upcoming episodes, things that are going on in the company, and things that are going on in the club. Twit.tv/newsletter. It's free. I want to encourage you to subscribe so you'll always know what's coming up. Okay, I guess that's it. My sad and solemn duty to tell you got to get back to work now because break time is over. See you next week. Get your tech news exactly how you want it with Twit.tv. Tech News Weekly with Micah Sargent delivers quick hit coverage and exclusive journalist interviews, giving you the inside scoop on breaking tech stories in under an hour. Now, for deeper dives, I hope you'll join me, Leo Laporte, and a great panel of tech industry experts. That's every Sunday with This Week in Tech. We'll break down everything from AI breakthroughs to privacy concerns to cybersecurity alerts in the tech world's longest-running and most trusted tech news roundtable. So, efficient or in-depth, the choice is yours. Subscribe to both shows wherever you get your podcasts, and head on over to our website, twit.tv, for even more independent tech journalism.